Hello and welcome to the match preview for this Sunday's Manchester Derby. Apparently I've been saying it wrong by pronouncing it phonetically with the letter E when it's a letter E, and I've got to say it differently. But hey, it's your culture. I'll try to keep up with it. The Manchester Derby. That is happening on Sunday, United versus City. And it's at an interesting time. Obviously, this early in the season, right after the international break, it's hard to say how it's going to go, who's going to be better, who's going to take the win, what we're going to see. It's unpredictable. You know, if it was a bit later in the season, you might even, and things were looking like they look now, you might even feel a little bit confident. And it is an interesting narrative going into this for myself and for everybody, because my feeling is United are kind of the favorites. I'm not sure I like that. I tend to prefer when United are a bit of the underdogs, not in a crisis, because we're in a crisis way too often, but a bit of feeling like, you know, we're on the up and up, but there's this feeling like City are bad and that United should be beating them. But at the same time, a lot of people think United are bad. So I don't know what the answer is. But what I do find interesting is, so far, if you were to look at this season and the 3 games that have been played, you would have to agree that United are probably the better team. I wanted to look at a couple of graphs here and compare where United are at compared to Man City and say, yeah, United have been better. Both teams are dealing with a few injuries. We know that Mason Mount and Cunha are out for this game, as well as Dalot. Now, I think that's a bit concerning because I think Cunha and Mount have been really integral to helping our front 3 play. If you've watched my tactical videos, the way that they move, the way that they drop is really, really important. But I kind of want to show, when I talk about what I think the team will be, how we can navigate that. City missing quite a few players as well, and a lot of goal threats where you just think, not really going to score. Can they score a lot of goals? Will they score a lot of goals? If we go by the numbers on the graphs, and it's cool that they actually have the graphs already for this season. I know it's just a few games, but now I can play with graphs to my heart's content and look at what I see going on here. If you look at XG per 90 and shots on target per 90, United are, along with Chelsea, probably the best in the league on this front. And you look at City, not bad, but certainly, you know, a bit lower in this sense. And if you look at it on kind of the reverse, let's say counterattacks per 90, United are still a very strong transition side. And if we think about Man City's weakness and our weakness, it is a matchup that plays into our favor. We tend to struggle with some of those faster transitions that happen against us. Well, City don't really transition and counter so much. They don't get so much pace in behind. But they are susceptible to the counter. That's how Tottenham beat them, even though Tottenham aren't so much a counter-attacking side. Just being direct and getting at them, they're still kind of poor in that respect. Conceded the same number of goals per 90. If we look at this one, this is interesting. Shots on targets against per 90. Now, remember, looking at this down here, lower is better. And let's compare it to what would be another defensive kind of stat here. Maybe let's look at pressing for just a moment, okay? And this is where I'm quite interested as well. Shots on target per 90. Remember, to the left is better, and for passes per defensive action, down is better. So United are among the best defensive and pressing teams in the league this season, while City have actually conceded the most shots on target per game of any team this season. They're all on 5, these. So they've conceded, and they're not that good in pressing. It feels like the numbers where City are at, they haven't really found their footing yet. It feels as though, you know, they're in a situation where they're gettable. They can be beaten. You know, at this point in time, they can be beaten. They're not that strong right now, and we could beat them. They don't press particularly high, which tends to be still where we struggle a little bit. They don't press particularly well. They don't necessarily attack with pace. That plays into our hands, and they're weak to attacks with pace. So I think there's a lot of things here where you could look at it and say, you know, United kind of have the advantage. And if we look at how we've played so far this season, we're starting to see a lot more Amorim football. If you remember looking at this last year, you know, I was saying, hey, we want to become more pressing. We want to bump up the possession, bump up the attacking, but still remain a team capable of attacking very quickly at the same time. We're doing that. Rather than just being a counter team that doesn't press, now we're a counter team that does press. And I hate to do it, guys, but I'm gonna, and someone's gonna complain about it, but it's like Liverpool. They've actually dropped their press off a little bit, but if you look, they're also a counter-attacking side, and this is the closest we're going to get to a Liverpool team. High counters and high pressing. We just need to bump up a few more things, but it's starting to get similar in that sense. If we look at City so far this season, again, just 3 games, not fast on the counter. They don't defend particularly well. They still hold a lot of possession. They don't really press. So it feels as though it's a game where we can get the ball, get them out of their comfort zone, beat them on that high line by attacking quickly, press them, but they're not really going to press us. It just feels like a game that's playing into our hands, and I don't like it. I worry when it looks like, hey, we should be beating a team like this. This is the type of team I expect United to beat. The teams where I expect us to have some difficulties with still are, unfortunately, teams like Liverpool that are very... maybe not Liverpool as much this season even, but more like some certain mid-table sides that are pressing hard, that are hitting us fast on the break, where they can just run through that midfield. When teams let us set up in our mid-block, it's really hard to break down. And that's been true for some time. When an Amorim team settles out of possession, it's hard to break down. It's in those transitions we still have some difficulties with the speed in our midfield. And set pieces. And I would say that I don't think that City are particularly great on set pieces and corners. So there's a lot of things playing into our advantage in this game. If I go to the lineup, this is what I predict that Ruben Amorim will do. He's already said Bayindir starting, and I look at it and say he's going to kind of, based on how he's selected his teams often in the past, I think he's going to try to change as little as possible. He has to swap out Dalot for Dorgu here, but I think he's going to try to keep all of this the same. And if Mount and Cunha were healthy, I bet you would be the exact same 11, bar Dorgu for Dalot for injury, as we saw against Burnley. And I'm okay with that. I think that what he's going to want to do is keep the same dynamics, keep those fast, direct balls coming from the midfield from Bruno and Casemiro, keep that side running at City over there. This is where we can have a huge advantage in Bumo and Ahmad running at their high line, getting those balls in behind to that side. That's been, again, if you watch the tactical videos, it's a hallmark of the system, and it's something we need to do better. A bit more additional pace and a direct route with Šeško. I think that Xerxes should play and start off the bat in the 10, because I think he offers a lot of what Mount and Cunha do when he drops into the midfield. He's so good at that. When we've seen him so far this season, that's where he makes such a big impact still. His ability to drop into the midfield, into the pockets, receive the ball, turn out of pressure, get it out wide. Those are the things you want from the 10s, and that will allow Mbeumo to continue to make those quicker runs. If you don't have Xerxes, and you're doing this and adding someone to the midfield, I don't. Bruno with less runners in front of him is not. It was our worst moments during Burnley came when he was at the 10 because he just didn't have those runners in front. So I'm thinking he'll change as little as possible and just replace the missing players. And I think Xerxes and Šeško should start. Obviously, it means we don't have as much by way of attacking substitutes later on, but the players should be fairly fit and fresh. You can always move Ahmad up, Mazraoui or somebody over in there later on in the game. There's a few different things you can do. You can move Kabi Mainu up into one of the 10s, or you can put Mainu deeper and move him up, or anybody. There's a few things you can do to still make changes in the game to add attack and threat. But I would hope we do this, stick with what, if he's sticking with Bayindir, then I have a feeling he's sticking with what's been his back 3 and his 4 here that he likes for most games. That's what I think anyway. We'll see. I just get the idea he's going to want to ride off what we did with Burnley and just replace what we missed. And to be fair, Cunha came off early for Xerxes, and then Šeško came on later, and this was basically the team that finished the game. So, and then you can make subs in the midfield for Casemiro and such later on. So I feel this is the route that he's going to go, and personally, I think it'll work. I wanted to just once again remind you that this week we will be playing fantasy again over on Big Up. So after the preview or whenever you watch, if you're going to go hang out in the watch along over there or not, you can enter into this competition. You pick the 5 players you think are going to have the biggest impact in terms of points. There's rules involved. They earn points just like fantasy. It's a 1-week competition. Each game is the game. During the match, when we're doing the watch alongs, all the updates and things will show in there. Costs $3 basically to enter, and you can win up to 50 for first place. There's a full prize pool of 100 for the top 3 places. You need to be in the UK or Spain to join, so you have to take a trip over there in order to join. But regardless, it is fun, and they're adding some updates. If you're watching in the watch-alongs with me over on Big Up, cool. If not, you can still play and still win prizes. So click the link below, come join, take part in the fantasy competition. It's a lot of fun. So again, going back to it, this would be my predicted lineup, and that's why I've gone with, Ahmad and Mbumo. I think they're going to have a big impact. I think that by India, I think we're going to keep a clean sheet, and I'll give you my score in a minute. I think that Vardiol and you have to pick 2 of the other opposition players. I just think these are the 2 most likely to kind of do something. If it's like a 0-0 draw, even they might be doing something. But my prediction for the game is actually a 2-0 win for United. I think Mbumo is going to get another goal in this game. I think Ahmad has the potential to score in this game as well. Again, those runs and those pace and behind those tricky forwards with a lot of speed are hard for City to deal with. I think that's where our advantage lies. I think this is a marker performance we put down. 2-0. Back-to-back wins in the Premier League for the first time. Really get going. And this is where we announce ourselves and say, hey, we're serious this season, before we ultimately lose to Chelsea at home. No, I'm just kidding. But this is the game, and I think it is. I wish to a degree we were the underdogs, but when I look at all the reasons, the fact is we have been performing better than City. It is a good matchup for us. We need to be able to put down a marker, and we tend to show up in big games, and I think we will. So 2-0 to Manchester United. That's my prediction. That's my preview for the game. Thanks for watching. And again, click the link below to go join the fantasy or just to join to watch me on the watch along and hang out with us on Sunday during the game. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Give me your thoughts below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. See you in the next one.